You know, if I didn't know what to expect coming into this week's episode of Sword Art Online, when I saw that content warning at the beginning of this episode, I would have mistaken this for a Goblin Slayer episode. Am I the only one? But anyways, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised with how far this episode of SAO went. I mean, look, I told you I've read the light novels. I'm not up to date with the light novels. I read up to volume 12, volume 13, and we're almost at the part to where this series is going to be catching up to where I was. And the thing about this is that I've been told that this is just like the cream on top of everything else. Like, this is nothing compared to everything else that's going to happen in this arc of SAO. And I'm pretty excited to actually see the things that many have talked about for years, telling me to get back into the light novels and start reading them. But backing up for a second, though, this episode, I know it was censored in its own way, and I have been told that apparently there might have been some scenes that were cut, like that was in the raw version of this, the untranslated version of this, and they, Crunchyroll version of this apparently had a lot more censors than the raw version, but I haven't really got to see the raw version myself to actually see. But I have been told, though, that there was some, edits and stuff that, Crunchyroll has gotten and wasn't actually in the original version. But regardless of all of that, though, obviously there was some censorship in this episode. But the censorship, really, it's not that bad. You gotta imagine it from this perspective, okay? It was censored because obviously they can't just show that, like, on TV. They can't do that. So they showed as much as they possibly could. And the reason why it looked as censored as it did is because when they finally release the BD DVDs, it won't be censored, and so you'll have all of that in its full glory with no censorship whatsoever. So that is something to look into and be happy to buy when you finally get your hands on the BD DVDs. But anyways, yeah, there was a lot of violence in this episode, something that many SAO watchers are not really used to. I mean, even light novel fans up to this point really weren't used to this extreme amount of violence in this series, Sword Art Online, because, I mean, let's be real here. When you hear, content warning for SAO, before this episode, obviously, you're probably just laughing like, oh, is it something that happened at the end of Season 1 where, Austin was being pushed down by, the main villain at the end? Was it something like that? And in a way, that did happen in this episode, which I will get into. But the point is, though, is that many are probably thinking, oh, it's the typical stuff we've seen in the earlier seasons of SAO, and it's nothing as extreme as maybe Goblin Slayer. But, oh, you were wrong. Like, many were wrong when this episode came out, and they watched it. They're like, did Eugeo just, like, cut this man's arm off? And then did Kirito just come in, slice this man's arms off, and then he died? Like, whoa, like, that's some pretty brutal stuff, I mean, for SAO. Now, there's a lot of things I need to talk about to clarify a couple of things from both characters' perspective, Eugeo and Kirito, and the meaning behind it and all of that, but I do want to talk about one big thing here to get it out of the way before I get into the message behind what Eugeo did, what Kirito did, and the story going forward. Obviously, the entire scene with the two girls on the bed, it feels very similar to what happened in earlier seasons of SAO, mainly what happened to Asuna, and I have seen many, comment on social media today on my Twitter, basically telling me, hey, that obviously this writer can't think of anything else to have conflict, it has to constantly throw in these elements to just, make us really hate a character. And I will admit, the two individuals that did get what was coming to them in this episode, they are not really good characters. I mean, besides just their personalities and how they're typical nobles, thinking they're better than everyone, the entire scene when they were, using the two girls and all that, it was very obvious that, it was there to also make us really hate them and, want to see Kirito and Eugeo take them out. But at the same time, it is something that many will obviously not like. It's not the fact that it was just there and there was justice, justice was gotten thanks to what Eugeo did and Kirito did. It's the fact that it's a plot point that has already been used before. And it's not good to keep using that to stir up, like, hatred in someone to make us dislike something. It just feels very cheap. It's a cheap way to build conflict. And, many are obviously upset with that. And I can understand. I'm not going to refute that. I'm not going to put anyone down for disliking that because it was. But here's the point, though. The writer came out and stated something today on Twitter after the episode aired, and I was very shocked by the writer coming out and saying and talking about that entire scene. If you want, you can go check for yourself. You can probably type in like the SAO wiki or whatever. I believe that is the translated tweet on Twitter of, the writer of SAO, saying what he said after the episode ended today. Basically, to kind of summarize it, the writer came out and stated that scene, which was the scene with the two girls and the two nobles, doing what they did. I can't say the words because YouTube wouldn't like that, but basically, the writer came out and said the reason why he uses that, or why he did use that, when he was really reading light novels and he was writing light novels, it was the thing. It was the thing to really start conflict, and, he does have a point. When you go back to earlier light novels and stuff, that was a common thing that you could easily find in that day and age when this arc was written, because I believe what I've been told is this arc, Underworld arc, was written around 2005, 2006, so that's a really long time ago. If you really put everything together, that's a long time. So, obviously, at the time of when, the individual was writing this, it was kind of a thing to probably stir up conflict, and he thought he had to do that type of stuff to be able to have, you hate a character. And he did outright mention the fact that he did use it too much at this point, and he doesn't like using it. He tries to completely negate and navigate around stuff like that, and have different other ways for you to hate characters or bring up conflict, and so he is trying as a writer. So, just wanted to, throw that out there. I know many might not like that scene in this episode just because it feels like a cardboard cutout of, everything else we've seen already, in the first season or whatever, or other series, but at the very least, the writer knows that he has used it a little bit too much, and he does want to get away from that and do different ways to write a story, so I think we should compliment him on that regard. Now, let's get into what Eugeo did in Kirito. So, Eugeo, he became a man. Like, I don't know how many actually took a moment to realize that, but Eugeo stepping up and, fighting for the girls and then cutting that dude's arm off, he became a man, because there's so many ways to really look at that. Number one, he became a human being, because he separated himself as just an NPC AI and truly became something intelligent, which is us as a human being. He was able to break the rules. And I know many might say, like, oh, it's not good to break the rules. Yes, but sometimes there's rules in place that are not good. They're not justified for what is going on in front of you. And, obviously, rules do need to be broken sometimes. It's not good to always do that, but sometimes they do. And what Eugeo did, breaking the rules, it separated him from everyone else that's already in this world of Underworld, and how basically he is someone that actually became human. He was able to make his own choice, and, the taboo index wasn't dictating what he wanted to do, forcing him to stay down, which you could see in that entire moment leading up to it. He was constantly struggling within himself. Like, he couldn't move. Like, he was bowing down all night. He couldn't even get up because literally the will of the taboo index and just how he is as an NPC wanting to follow it was fighting him. And so he had to really overcome a major emotional hurdle to be able to even stand up and do what he did. So he became a human being. He became a man, and he was able to gain his own free will. It's like he broke the shackles of what he once was, and he is now a living being himself, a very intelligent living being that is willing to fight for what he believes in. So that is awesome. I love that moment with Eugeo. It's a great moment for his character, and it was one of the reasons why I really love this arc in SAO, just seeing something like that, seeing this character struggle so much. I mean, the man was fighting so hard that, like, the error code that, him as an NPC, it broke. His eye just shattered, which, holy crap, I am surprised that was shown. But seeing, like, shatter and he got up and started to fight, love that scene. And I especially love when Kirito intervenes and he comes in, and Eugeo looks like he's about to go down. Kirito saves the man, and Kirito, we know how he is. If you are a light novel reader at this point, then you know how Kirito is. Yes, he doesn't like ending people, he doesn't like that, but he has done it in the past. And, this was established at the beginning of this season, but also in the last season, Kirito had to do things like that. Even in Season 1, there was hints at it. Kirito, many times in SAO, he actually ended a lot of people. He was responsible for it because they were bad people, but he still did that, and it weighed heavily on his mind. Something like ending someone is not new to Kirito. He's done it many times in the past. It doesn't mean it's justified, but he has done it. His hands are not clean by any means. And when he did what he did, there's also a lot of messages there. Basically, Kirito, the way he views all these people in this world, he doesn't view them as an object. He doesn't view them as just throwaways. Even if they're scum, he still views them as people, because that's how Kirito is as a character. That was the reason why Asuna mentioned what she did a couple episodes back, saying Kirito wouldn't like it if he found out the truth of why you're doing this project, wanting to use these AI as basically weapons in war. You know, he won't like that at all. It's because Kirito, he still looks at them like a life. He doesn't want them to be used or whatever. They have their own rights. And that's how he feels about it. So regardless if it's an NPC or not, he still looks at them like a true living being that shouldn't be taken that easily. So he did a big thing there. He did a big thing standing up for Eugeo and ending that dude, cutting off the man's arms, and then you see the man fall down and die. Which, by the way, that sequence when the man died, whoa. I mean, look, it was gruesome in the light novel, just reading it and then, you know, imagining the thoughts in my head, but just legit hearing the man screaming and just seeing literally him break down as, like, a program, and he just has this, like, death scream. Oh my god, like, that honestly surprised me with how well done that was. The voice actor of that character, I have to say, good job. You did a really good job just making that final segment of him just so grotesque and eerie, because it's just like something no one's really heard before. Remember, this world, nobody really commits those type of acts. Nobody does that. And so it's kind of one of the first few times you see something like that happen in this world. And so you gotta imagine those people there are just in a state of shock. They're like, whoa. Like, they're just so broken. They're like, that is just terrifying. And Kirito, you gotta imagine how he felt just seeing that man just breaking down like he did. He was probably just sick to his stomach, not knowing what to do. But yeah, this episode of SAO, fantastic. I think, honestly, this is easily one of the best episodes of the series, like, in terms of all of SAO, just because of the message behind it, the emotional weight behind the characters, for instance, when it comes to Kirito, Eugeo, and what happened within the scene, the justice, and just how far it really went. Now, one thing left to really tackle before I wrap up this video, I do want to mention at the end, it's very obvious that the Integrity Knight that popped up is Alice, unless it's an Alice clone or something, which that's not too far-fetched when you really think about this world being in a, you know, a virtual reality and having the ability to probably clone AI and stuff. It makes sense maybe that could be a possibility, but we also do know that a lot of time has passed, and so it is likely that Alice has grown up, and she is a lot taller, and so it makes perfect sense. So we do know that her memories or whatever was tampered with, and she was corrected, which was stated by people outside of the VR experience. You know, Raph themselves said that when they finally discovered what happened to Alice, she was corrected. So we do know that the reason why she didn't, you know, have any shocked look on her face when she's all Kirito or Eugeo was because she was already corrected, so we could assume maybe her memories were erased as well. But it does bring up into question, if you break the law, the taboo index, do you become an Integrity Knight? Is that what happens? And so, that's one thing you gotta factor in this moment, like, what does it mean? Does that mean that Eugeo and Kirito are gonna have a chance to becoming Integrity Knights, or is something else about to happen? Who really knows? We're gonna get to see the experience firsthand of whatever Alice had to go through many, many years ago. But that's about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.